This is Scuba GOAT
Under the sea.
the podcast for the inquisitive diver.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Scuba GOAT podcast, where we explore the fascinating world of scuba diving and ocean exploration. Today we have a very special guest with us, Nathalie Lasselin. Nathalie is an award-winning filmmaker, dive expedition leader, CCR, cave and wreck explorer and instructor. She's also an international keynote speaker, writer and on-camera talent and technical dive specialist for TV shows. It gives me enormous pleasure to welcome Nathalie Lasselin to the Scuba GOAT podcast. Good morning, Nathalie. How are you?
Good evening. Yeah, we're just on the other side of the world, but
I know,
good
we're
morning,
poles
good
apart.
evening. You're in summer, we're in winter, but you know, it's all good.
Yeah. I am literally sat here with 3 fans on the go, just trying to stay cool. It was 38 degrees yesterday. It was a scorcher.
Oh, poor you. It was just minus 5 or 6 today. I spent the day in the ice cave filming, and it was refreshing.
Oh, I bet it was.
But yeah, at some point it will be summer again. You know, just enjoy the weather, whatever it is.
Now we've got to explain that you are in Canada, I'm in Australia, hence the slight temperature difference. And I believe you are Canadian born, is that right?
Not at all. I'm
No.
French from France.
You are
Yeah,
a true
yeah.
French lady, eh?
Yeah, I'm a true French lady, and I emigrate from France to Canada when I was a teenager to do my university degree, and I got stuck in Montreal. So now I believe I'm both French and Canadian, and French Canadian. So that's a lot of identities, but I embrace them all.
Fantastic. Now, for those people that don't know you, I mean, that was a quite lengthy intro, but it's a small snippet into your life as a diver and explorer and filmmaker and all-round amazing individual. So we need to expand on that a little bit. So why don't we go right back to the beginning and find out where you first started to don a mask and regulator?
Oh my God. You know what is funny is that I started to be a filmmaker first.
Uh-huh.
I used to work for the National Film Board of Canada for documentaries, and I always wanted to do some scuba diving, but at that time I didn't have quite the budget to do it when I was a young adult, so it took me a couple of years. And the reason why I got into scuba diving, it's kind of funny, is because I hate cold. But it's yeah, it's in my karma. And I said, you know what? I want to scuba dive because I want to do some ice diving. So that's why I started basically. And funny enough, for me, what was really interesting in scuba diving was to be able to go further than the line of horizon to see something. You know, for example, going underground is the same thing. You can't see until you go there. So that's what was appealing to me. It was really like, okay, I need to be a scuba diver, as I need to know that means of transportation in order to see what is going on down there. So that's how I started. And I'm still kind of a young diver. I dove for a little bit more than 2 decades, but that's it. It's not that much, you know, compared to many people of my age, which I will not tell, of course. It says it all. But no, when I started scuba diving, it's funny because within a couple of months, I became a technical diver. Just because
Really?
I was at a quarry, and you know, nothing really passionate or interesting to see there, but I saw the bottom of the quarry, which I couldn't see. It was pitch black, and I said, you know what, I want to go there, but I don't want to kill myself. Back then there was a lot of people who died doing technical diving or advanced diving, and I was like, I don't want to be one of those numbers. I don't want to be a statistic.
Yeah.
No. And I said, okay, well, how does that work? And there weren't many women. And that day I saw a guy with 2 tanks on his back, and I went to talk to him and ask him, why do you have 2? Like, one is not enough? and he explained to me what was technical diving, and at that day I was like, okay, it's what I'm going to do. And on that day I believe I had something like 7 dives. That's it. And
Really?
I met an instructor, and within a couple of months I started the training and diving, and within a couple of months that changed completely my life. I didn't see it coming. It wasn't written in my book. It wasn't something like, I want to be an underwater filmmaker in my life. It wasn't written that way, not at all. But it's just something that deep inside I had to do. And when you, maybe a couple of years after, I became a cave diver. And I was driving because I went to Florida, which is like 21 hours driving from home. And I was driving with my instructor. And you know what is funny? At that moment, I was like, oh, I understand why I'm doing cave diving. Because when I was a little girl, I wanted to be a geologist. But once again, back then, you know, it's not a job, you know, it's not a career and not for a woman. So it was like, you're going to do something else with your life, but you're not going to be a geologist, you know, or a spelunken, you know, it's too dangerous. So it's always something that I put in the back of my mind, and I completely forgot for years until that day when we were driving south, and it was like, you know what, it's funny, because don't even try to not listen to the person you are really, because at some point in your life, it's just come back like a slap in your face, and it's like, you are supposed to be that person. So just embrace it and do it, whatever it means.
Wow. That is that's a very fortunate time in your life then, to just have that realization so early on.
Yeah, and you know, it wasn't still, you know, and even still now, is it really a career to spend your time diving and filming? Is it worth it? Is it, you know, it's not something that you say, well, I'm gonna be able to see all the step, you know, and this is how it's gonna go. You never know. Every single day is a surprise, and it may work really well for a couple of times, months, years, and you may have an amazing project. Sometimes everything may collapse, like during pandemia, but you have to go back on your feet and find something else, because there's always something more interesting or newer, or something that nobody knows about, and you're like, I'm gonna try to figure out what it is about. So it's at the end of the day, just, I think I was someone who was always curious, and I'm still that child who is curious and want to know, want to experience, wants to see, to feel, even if sometimes it can be really, really hard on your body, on the fatigue and all that. But for me, this is the definition of life. It's to live it, to feel it. So whatever it's going to be, I'm just going to go and try to figure out how to see it, to feel it, to live it, and most importantly, how to share it. Because if you don't share it, it's just like, did it, so what?
Tick off the box and move on to the next one. No one else knows, eh?
Yeah. But to share it, to not to tell the people, hey, look what I did, you know, but to see like that place that we thought that was kind of boring and not that interesting, there is something in it. And this is what I saw, what I discovered, what I could document, and it might be of interest for some or many people. So, and from that, some people might say, hey, you know what, maybe I will do a career about that. Maybe it can bring me something more interesting in my life, or maybe I can overcome some fear of something in my life that I want to achieve. So I think in the sharing, for me, it's really how we can share in an humble way, because we might impact people, we might inspire people, and that's the best salary you can have in life. You know, when you did something with passion, and you have that impact on someone that you don't even know, you didn't even know, and that person contact you and said, you know what, I saw your lectures, or I read your book, and because of that, this is what I could achieve. And this is one of the best gifts that I appreciate in life.
Yeah, I can relate enormously to that. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
So when you're on your way down to Florida and going doing the cave diving, at what point did you decide, right, now I've got these new skills, and coupling that with my skills with a camera, how did you combine the two? When did that start?
The minute I put my head on the water, I knew that I wanted to film it, to be able to show the images to all the people who will never be able, for so many reasons, to do the same, to see that underwater. But I was like, I'm better be a good diver, good buoyancy, and the minute I feel that I can trust myself, then I will take a camera. So I believe it took me maybe 6 months, maybe a year, before I dared to take a camera down there. And when I did my cave diving training, I already took a camera down there. So I went there and I was like, I want to document why people want to be a cave diver. How come you love it or you hate it, but how come it's so strong? You know, what is the meaning of that environment that is so different from one person to the other one? And then I started to do my own projects, and because I was already in the film industry, I started to film for commercial feature films, documentary underwater. So slowly, you know, step by step, and at that time we didn't have video, it was film, so you know, it was less accessible, affordable, and there weren't any GoPro back then, so it's like, you know, you couldn't go and okay, I'm gonna buy myself a camera. So I did to one of the big company in the US, in California, in Hollywood, to see the housings and how it was working, and how the business was, and how I could one day, you know, achieve to do something in that specialization of underwater filmmaker.
And what I was trying to get the chronology of all of the stuff that you've done, but what was the very first production that you put out there?
I did some, short films, but the first one that was really meaningful was Facing Darkness, which was the documentary in which I interview Jim Bowden. I don't know if you remember him. He was the one who was diving in Zakatan in '94 at the same time than Czech Exley. At that time, he broke the depth record in a cave. And unfortunately, Czech Exley died that day. And I did several interviews of the first generation of cave divers in Florida, and that film, I mean, I sold them on DVDs in 25 countries, everywhere, and it was really a documentary, you know, just to demystify what is it about, you know, why people they pick or portray themselves as a cave diver. You know, it's something interesting in the industry, in the diving industry, and in the divers, you know, because you define yourself as a diver. Oh yeah, I am a diver. You know, it's you. Some people may say, you know, I am a judoka, or I am. But when you are a diver, for many people, it's something you feel they are proud of.
Yes,
and
definitely.
And when you're a technical diver, you know, it's like, I'm there, and then I'm an instructor. There is something really interesting about that community, you know, and the bound between people and the level they're at, of how proud they are of what they achieve, of what they dare to do. And I think there's a lot to do with achieving, because we're not supposed to be underwater. I mean, we're not fish, and we don't really it would be really, really nice to be able to go down there without a tank or a rebreather, but it's not, we're not made to last a long time underwater. So I think a lot of people, they are really, really proud, and there's that feeling of belonging to a community. And because it can be a long path to be a good diver, to be a confident diver, a comfortable diver, an experienced diver. It's you don't do it overnight. So I believe it might be one of the reasons why people are so close to their community, and they are so proud of being one of us or one of them or whatever, you know.
Yeah. It's something that comes up on the podcast a few times about the, it's in one of the questions later on as well. How do you describe the scuba diving community to someone who's a non-diver? And it is that beauty of the sport. I mean, like all sports, there's a commonality. If you're a football player, you love football. If you're a rugby player, you love rugby, tennis, blah blah blah. But with scuba diving, there's that inequality that is made equal by scuba diving. You can be a barrister, you can be a bin man, you can be unemployed, but you're a scuba diver. No one really cares what you do in life. But that scuba diving element that you've got, and the recognition of how far you've come and progressed in a non-life sustaining environment, is just, it's unrivaled in any other kind of community, in my opinion.
Yeah, maybe there's a little bit of that in, like hiking, like long hikes, multi-days hike, or climbing. But the thing is that you can hike by yourself. You can climb, kind of by yourself. But diving, I mean, you can still solo diving, and I do a lot of solo dive. I love that. But to a certain extent, you can't. You need to have a team, because you rely also on that team. And if you want to go further, if you want to push your limits, there's a lot of things you're going to learn while you're diving. The amount of time you spend on the water, and you learn by mimicking the others, by the comment of the others, by the experience of the others. And it's not something you can learn on internet. You have to be down there and do it.
It's a very hands-on kinesthetic sport, isn't it? It's like you say. And again, on the experience level, we learn from much more experienced people. But the amount of times I've picked up little snippets of good information or good forms in the water from lesser experienced divers as well. It's very much an upward and downward kind of sharing society. I like it.
Yeah. And I think that I teach not full time, but I will not quit teaching, because for me, every time I teach, it's someone who's going to ask me questions that are questioning why I'm doing things that way. Is it still the most optimum way of doing things? And for me, it's a way of not having bad habits. And it worked 10 years ago. It's gonna work like in 10 years. At some point you are in that comfort zone that you don't want to question yourself. Like, well, I'm doing it because I'm doing it.
Yeah. Because
it fits me. Yeah, but what about if it doesn't fit you anymore because you're not maybe in the same shape, you're aging, you're not doing the same dive, it's not the same condition. So for me, teaching is, yes, explaining, sharing, trying to improve the students' skills, but at the same time, always I love when I have students and I'm like, gee, they are so good, what I am going to be able to teach them. And I love that, because I've got some of my students in the 2 last years, and I'm like, gee, I have to find something. Not to find something, but it's like, we all have something to improve. We all have weakness. And by finding that little crack and think, okay, maybe the equipment is perfect, maybe the configuration is perfect, but maybe the mindset is not always perfect. And it's how to be as perfectionist and as good as you can to make everyone improve. Because when the others improve, you are improving as well. And this is something really, you know, at the end of the day, when you succeed that day, it's just perfect. It's like a good day at job.
I want to pick up on a little comment that you had there as well about the mental state of your students. Now, I did notice that you are also into hypnosis. Mm-hmm. How did that come about?
Yeah. We are in 23, so that means 5 years ago. Yeah, 5 years ago, I did a crazy project. I dove for 44 miles, 70 kilometers, from one end of Montreal to the other end in the St. Lawrence River. And I had to go underneath 9 bridges, rapids. And I wanted to do that to raise awareness towards our source of tap water, of drinking water. But in order to do that, it would take like 30 hours on the water. And I was like, okay, I can train, you know, find the best mix for the rebreather, but at some point I'm going to have to sleep. I'm going to have to take by my energy. And how do I do that? And I talked to different divers who did long dives and told me we didn't find the best way of doing it. And then I thought of a guy named Bertrand Piccard. Is a French guy, and is the guy who had the solar plane. I don't know if you remember the two guys who did the first round trip around the world with a solar plane. And that guy it's an unbelievable explorer, is a psychiatric, and is also an hypnologist, in hypnologue. And he uses a trick to be able to put yourself in a state that you're gonna kind of not really sleep, but half of your brain and your body is sleep, and the other half is kind of in a state of awake, of alertness. But by doing that in 20 minutes, it could be the equivalent of 4 hours of sleeping.
No way.
And yeah, it can be really, really powerful. And I say it can be, because some people, you say, oh, you know, hypnosis, you're gonna make me do things I don't want. It's like, it's bullshit. It's not the way. It can work for some stuff, you know, like to make a show, but it's not the way it's working. If you want to achieve some stuff, if you want to overcome some fears, or if you want to overcome some pain. While I did that dive, I had a lot of pain because I was scootering for so many hours, and I had a full face mask and all the stuff and the heavy equipment. And you're able, with training, to take some pain of your body and to move it somewhere else. So that part of your body is relaxing, and you are able to sustain the pain, or to endure it more easily. So there's so many things you can do with it. But once again, it's not a magic pill. It doesn't work with everybody, in the sense that if you are not willing to let it go, to live the moment of the hypnosis, if you don't want to participate in it, it's not going to work. If you're like, you know what, it's not going to work on me. No, it's not. Of course, it's not. Yeah, but if you're like, you know what, maybe I'm not at ease to let it go, but I'm going to try. Maybe it's not going to work the first time, but the more you do it, and it's pretty amazing what you can achieve with that again. And for me, this is something, you know, in diving and technical diving, it's something that I feel, I felt that there was a lack, you know, because you can have all the amazing equipment, top notch, like the best, you know, like all the people I always make fun, like, oh, what is the best regulators? I don't know. It does not exist. For me, it does not exist. There are good ones, better ones, not so good ones depending on what you're doing, but what is the best one? I don't know. I don't have a clue. And for me, most of the time, I say, look at all the guys and the girls who are doing explorations. Look at their configuration. It's amazing. It's amazing what they have on their back.
Yeah.
But what they have in their mind, what they have in between the two ears, this is something you cannot buy.
That's the difference, yeah.
That's the difference.
Yeah.
You can have a huge handicap. And I met many divers who, were disabled. And it's amazing. And I'm always impressed by what they are doing, what they can do, and what scuba diving can do for them as well. You know, and at the end of the day, it's not how strong you are. Maybe it helps, of course, but it's not how strong you are, the equipment you have, it's what you have in between your two ears. Yeah. If it's a good day, your mindset is top notch, but the conditions are shitty, you're going to go through it. But if you have all the rest, but your mindset is not there, I don't know what's going to happen. Yeah. If you're not ready to fight when it comes to that, you're not going to go through it.
Yeah, yeah.
So I think that's the huge difference, and I wish we had more conversation. And when I teach, I talk a lot about that. Like the body system. It's like, okay, do you know what your body feel? Is it, did he just argue with his wife or husband a minute ago before a big dive? It's going to make a huge difference. Did you argue before the dive or the day before? If there's something you don't feel, you're not confident with, you have to talk about those things before you do a dive that is going to be a big dive for you. Because if you don't go through that, the minute you're down there and you have a huge problem, are you going to fight for yourself and your body? Or are you going to go just leave because you want to save yourself?
Yeah, yeah.
So I think
it's a very interesting conversation, and I had a conversation. I don't know whether I'll have to check after the podcast whether I can leave this in the show or not. But I was talking with a colleague of mine that's here in Australia, and he's formulated a system which actually checks in with the dive professionals within the dive industry to make sure that they are mentally, healthily okay. It's something that just isn't in the industry whatsoever. And you think about the environment that we're in, and whether you can be recreational or professional, but if there's that constant pressure to be diving all the time, those outside influences can have one hell of an impact. And it does need some sort of system in place to look after our mental well-being.
Yeah, and I think in a general way in life, we put a lot of emphasis on the tools we can purchase, we can have, but the best tool we have is ourselves.
Yeah.
And the more work or attention we're going to put on what we can do, what we can achieve with what we have, we're going to be so self-sufficient or confident because we know we have it within us.
Yeah.
Years ago I was running half marathon and marathon, and while I was training, I never trained listening to music because I had one fear. I said, if I always train with music and the day I'm going to run the marathon or half marathon, I have a problem with the equipment, no more music. What's going to happen with my brain?
Makes a lot of sense.
I don't know. So I said, okay, it's harder. I have to motivate myself in a harder way, but I don't depend on something that may not be there the moment I need it. But I can still carry it in my pocket just in case that, you know what, I know that song is going to help me to finish and go to the finish line, So for me, it's really important, whatever the kind of diving we're doing, because it can be shallow dives and strong currents, it can be deep dive in the caves or on a wreck, to make sure that whatever's going to happen during that dive, whatever the level you're at, you're going to finish it in a perfect way. I'm just going to close because my email software is open and I don't know if you can hear the bing bing, so
no, you're safe at the moment. No beer fines. Okay. You're all good.
So it's closed. So yes, you know, the mindset, the mental preparation is important, and I would say to teach the people, the students, how to think, to ask them in that situation, what are you going to do and why? And not give them the solution like, okay, for this you do this, for this you do this, for this you do this. No, because if that solution does not make sense to the person, and if the situation arrives, is going to say like, what did she tell me to do? I can't remember. But if you walk the person through how to think to find his solution, it's going to go back to intuition. Because maybe he will not remember, but the intuition, the path he walked it or she walked it. So they're going to find it back. And most of the time it's like, okay, you do this that way, that way, that way. And I'm like, it helps for some stuff. But most of the time it's like, okay, how would you do it? And then you can tell them, okay, not that way because this is what you can encounter. Not that way, blah, blah, blah. This is a good way, but maybe this one is better. Try both. And you'll see. Your body will see it, and you will have your muscle memory, feel it, and your brain. You know, it's like most of the time when you do something, you can write it, read it, and say it. So it's 3 ways to remember it. So there's so many tools like that that we can use, and at the end of the day, just to be a more satisfied diver, you know, because the experience is going to be more interesting.
Yeah. And we have got that massive advantage that we're putting this to diving, which is a physical entity, so we can put it into practice. And practice is repetition, like you say, just brings that intuition on board and the second nature of automation, but without having to do the prescriptive prescriptive bits that you've just discussed, and being able to formulate that into your own mold. Yeah. That leads nicely, actually, onto one of my questions that I had for you. And I want to know, how do you handle unexpected situations that arise when you're shooting underwater? Because you take, it's not small amounts of equipment underwater, and you're in these extreme environments. So how do you actually deal with anything that's unexpected?
As a French person, the first thing I do, I scream. You know? So you let it go. Yeah. So it's done. So yeah, and I'm someone who can react a lot. So yeah, when I'm not happy, you're gonna know it. So I might scream. It's like, what the? And then it's like, okay, what are my options? What can we do? And it's just to try option 1, option 2, option 3 until they find the one that is going to solve the situation. Because it's nightmares at work. I've got tons of them where nothing is working, and you're like sometimes asking yourself, how are we going to make that happen? Sometimes it can be weather, because the weather is not coping, and at the end of the day you can't control it. And I think you have to accept the fact that you may not have the shot. Yeah. And for me, it's something that I acknowledge, and it became something ethical as well. What I mean by that, for example, regarding marine life, I'm the kind of person who made the decision that I may not have some shots because I know my interference with the marine life is something that I don't believe in or I'm not comfortable with. because I don't think it completely respect the animal. So this is my line, and it's completely personal. I mean, some people have the line somewhere else. So yeah, there are some shots I didn't get, and I was like, I could have.
Yeah. Coulda, woulda,
On
shoulda,
the
but
other,
yeah, coulda, woulda,
But-
shoulda, but at least it's in there and you've got that memory.
yeah, but on the other hand, it's like, you know, you have to work until until it's not safe anymore. And that brings me to something else. You know, what is safe?
Go for it.
What is your tolerance to risk? What is your view on what is dangerous and what is not? We don't have the same definition. And I learned it in many shoots, either in really strong current, cold, dark waters, for shipwrecks, in the Arctic, or in my expedition when I traverse Montreal. What seems to be really dangerous from one of my team members, and what is the limit they will not go beyond, it's not at all the same than the one I have. And this is based on what experience do you have? How do you feel this morning to face that situation? So whenever there is, you know, something really unexpected, if it's something that it's kind of too much, I'm gonna scream. Or if it's something that really, how come this is happening? You know, it shouldn't have, because we could have planned it. I'm gonna scream for a couple of seconds. I'm not gonna be a happy cookie. And then it's like, okay, so now we can do this. On the other hand, when it's something that no way we could have planned it, or if it's not like a human error or something, because we were not that focused. If we're not that focused, I'm not gonna be happy. But if it's not because of that, I'm gonna be on that resolution problem. Like, okay, let's find, there's a way. There's always a way, and we will find it. Yeah. Maybe we will not achieve the result we thought we were going to achieve, but we're going to be pretty close. And we're going to do whatever we can to be close to the result.
Yeah.
Because if you, I think, and it's, once again, it's a question of mindset. And I think there's two compartments there. Sometimes you can leave your emotion and just, you know, scream, or like, or really, you know, and not be happy for a couple of seconds and blah blah blah, and then just emotions go in the box. It's not the moment to have emotion, because they're not gonna serve you, and you will deal with them later on. But okay, you have that 5 seconds, like, you know, like any diver who at the beginning of a panic, like okay, you did it, stop now. You know, stop, hold something, look at a point, and okay, now what is the solution? Step 1, step 2. And then I try to go in that mindset of a robot. I have a job to do.
Yeah.
My job as a diver is to complete the dive, to come home, to have a drink, glass of champagne, whatever it is, and have a good story to tell, or, you know. But if I let my emotions overcome me or win over me, I'm gonna lose everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
So when there's a situation, depending, I'm gonna, you know, react for a couple of seconds, and then it's like, okay, let's find a way.
Yeah. Have you had any close calls where you've thought, shit, this could end my diving career?
Yeah. It's and I wrote the story in you know, the book Close Calls, that Stratiscan published 2 years ago, I believe. So it's a collection of stories from many explorers in the world, and my story is kind of awkward one. When I did the traverse, everything went wrong. Really, we had all kind of problems, but so I had like 70 kilometers to dive, and just maybe 3 kilometers before the end of the dive, we were something like 12 hours later than planned. Everybody was tired, and everybody thought that I was going the person who was going to have a problem. So I was diving by myself with a bidirectional communication system, a buoy at the surface with a strobe, and it's pitch black on the river. And if you do a little bit of boating, you know how difficult it is to see another boat.
Yeah.
Because those lights, they are really dimmed. And so everyone is looking at my buoy, just, am I okay? And at some point said, okay, we're going to have to switch the scooter. So they asked me to come to the surface. And at that exact moment, there was a big tugboat just coming towards us. And we were in the middle of the seaway. So basically, the minute I arrived at the surface, my own boat pushed me out of the way by pushing on the canister of my rebreather. I had a metal frame, which was a big lock, and pushed me out of the way. Otherwise, the tug would have hit me really badly.
Jesus.
So not only I could have died, but part of my team as well, because the boat, the chasing boat, was just in the middle of the seaway as well.
Yeah.
And what is funny is, at that moment I didn't fear anything, because I was like, when I heard the boat pushing me, I knew it was my boat, because it was not a single hull, but the two, like a catamaran.
Catamaran, yeah.
Yeah, kind of, but it's not the same, the right word, but with
twin
two
hull, or whatever it's called.
Yeah, twin hull. So because of the sound of it, I knew it was my boat. And I was like, I'm stuck under the boat, and why are you pushing me? And I'm just stuck under the boat. So I was just telling them, I'm there, because I was worried that if I slide along the hole, my legs were going to go into the props of the engine, and then no more legs, which would have been really, really bad. But everything was filmed because of the documentary we're doing. And I saw the footage maybe 1 year after the dive. We were because I didn't edit the film. It was, so I didn't see the footage, but the director sent me the footage of first editing of the film, and when we saw the sequence, I had to stop watching because I really realized what was going to happen if the team didn't react the way they did.
Yeah.
So it would not have ended my career, but after that I took my license for a boat captain, my commercial license, because I wanted to know more about all that and how come we made such an enormous series of errors. But honestly, if it has been the last day, it would have been the last day. It's I'm the kind of person who really think that if I die tomorrow, I'm not going to be happy. But gee, I can't complain. I saw and experienced so many things that I can't complain. So I'm
That's
gonna
because
keep
you're doing
doing
everything
it.
You get the opportunity to do it, you're doing it. It enriches your life.
Yeah, and for me, it's not about what you possess. It's really about what you experience, what you can. It's kind of building your memory or experience, and So, no, I think as long as I have the energy and the passion, I will keep doing the kind of diving I do. And when I will be really old, then I'll do more blue warm water diving.
You
I
can
don't
come and
do
join
a
me
lot
in the
of them.
tropics then.
Yeah. I don't do a lot of them. In the cave, it's not, it's most of the time it's pretty warm but no, I think I do one expedition per year where it's really blue, warm waters. But funny enough, it's not in my comfort zone because diving with one tank in the blue ocean, I'm like, something is missing. Ooh.
Oh, good on you. Good on you. Hey, since we're talking about the river, that's another question I had for you. Can you talk in more detail about the documenting of the St. Lawrence River and what awareness or what drew you to this particular location?
Yeah, well, I live in Montreal, so each time I land in Montreal, actually we are an island, so we are islanders. It's a 500 square kilometers island, and I was like, it's funny, because I travel everywhere around the world, but I don't even know what's in the waters in Montreal. So it's really funny, but it's brown, green waters, no exotic fish, lots of currents, shoals, a lot of marine traffics when it's not where it's not the shoals, so it's not really sexy nor appealing. And I was like, oh, it would be funny, since it's an island to dive and do the round trip, but there's hydroelectric dam, so you can't really do that. And I said, well, so maybe I can go from one end to the other end. It would be really nice to be like a drop of water and see what it's like. So that was the starting point. And then the more I think about it, it's, well, for 50% of the population of Quebec, we drink the water from that river. And all the wastewaters go back in that river. And 70% of Montreal, we drink that water. And the wastewaters go back in that river. And I was like, what is the state of the water? Is it that clean? Is it really better than in the 60s, 70s with all the BPC mercury? Do we say mercury?
Yep.
Leads and all that. Is it way better, or we're just kind of So that's why I wanted to do that big dives, because I wanted to do something that was a symbol of commitment. Because if you want to achieve something, it's not something you're going to do in one day. It's something that you do step by step every day. If you want to take care of your body, don't go spend 1 hour or 2 in the gym and that's it. Nothing's going to happen. So you need to do it little by little every day. So how do we take care of what I believe is the most important thing after air is the fresh water? Because if we don't have good water, drinking water, in 3 to 5 days we're dead. End of the story. You can have a PhD, you can have a fortune. If you don't have drinking water, you're dead within 3 to 5 days. And in Canada, we have the false feeling that, we've got plenty of waters. It's all good. Is it really? So I wanted to check that. And for me, one of the questions generally in life is that, what is more important? What you see or what you don't see? What you know or what you don't know? So we're like, okay, I know there's emerging contaminant. Emerging contaminant basically is like pesticides, all the medicine, all the drugs, all the produce we put to grow plants in a non-organic way, non-biologic way. So all those
like compost and all that kind of stuff. You mean like compost and chemical?
All the chemicals,
additionals.
Yeah, all the chemicals additional. Because all those chemicals, we know that they have a bioaccumulation effect in the fish and in ourselves. But how can you prove it? Because it's going to take so long. So I was like, okay, do we have a lot of them in the St. Lawrence River? So we did a series of dives in 250 kilometers to take samples of water and sediments. And the chemical department of the University of Montreal analyzed everything just to tell us, okay, what do we find in the water? And funny enough, it's not that clean. I mean, the numbers are not huge numbers, but they are there. You know, so it's hormones, drugs. How would you call that in English? Antidepressant.
Antidepressant.
Antidepressant. Yeah, it's the good word.
Yeah. As a drug.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
It's a drug. Yeah. So you find them and all the drugs. You know. So. And the thing is that in many places in the world, they don't have the plan to remove those contaminants from the water, because you need to use ozonization, which costs a fortune, of course. So that's one of the things I wanted to raise awareness about. And the other thing, which is easier, is the plastic pollution. Yeah. So we started to do cleanups, and so far we removed just in Montreal 13 tons of debris, plastic, tires, aluminum can, beer can, cup of coffee, all kind of stuff like that, bicycles. And because it's the source of our tap water, it's something really, really important for me. So you know, it's not big expedition it's not an expedition to do some cleanups, you know, but at the same time you're in the murky waters, you don't see your hands, and you're just, you know, feeling stuff and you don't know what it is, and you just remove them, you know. So sometimes we find some weird stuff. We found some rifles, some guns, and some bags, and you're like, oops. So you don't never know what you're going to find, but no dead body, so we're good so far.
Good. Yeah. Now, obviously you're heavily into the photography and videography, documentation, etc. But so one of the clear questions has to be, you know, how do you see the role of photography and videography in raising awareness about environmental issues?
Photography is a wonderful way to capture one single moment. You know, it's a fraction of a second, so it can be really, really powerful in that capturing that precise moment. We often say that a picture worth 1,000 words. At the same time, nowadays, every pictures can be modified in a way that they are not true anymore. Yeah. So I'm not sure in the future if I'm still gonna see image the same way. I don't know. I'm ambiguous about that, you know, with AE at the same intelligence, artificial intelligence as well. I don't know how it's going to become, but so far, so good. It's an amazing tool to show a proof, not the proof, but a proof of, or a sign of what is going on down there. So it's still the best medium to show to the people that are going to go there or not, what we can see in that 70% of the planet.
Do you think?
You know,
do you think with, you know, with everybody having a camera nowadays, there are kind of photography slightly diluted as to what it used to be, and that videography is kind of the one that you can't really effectively cheat on what you're displaying as much?
It's funny because, you know, most of the videos that are being watched by numbers are not the best ones. Yeah. It's not the quality that, you know, you can have like hundreds of thousands of click or views on videos that are not that meaningful. But it's still the best tools because it's so quick, you know, and an image can stay in your brain for so long. So yes, it's diluted, but at the same time there is always that picture, and we don't know who's going to take it. Maybe it's just the youngest amateur that was just there at that precise moment, and good for him or her, you know, it's perfect. But there will always be that picture that will reach something in your brain or in your art that's going to make a difference.
Yeah. No, I see that. Very true.
Yeah. And at the same time, you know, I'm not the most active person on social media. I don't post a lot. I don't watch a lot because sometimes I have to clean my eyes.
Yeah.
You know, because if I see too much, and sometimes I go in some, you know, diving a place, and I don't want to see images from that place. You know, it's like I always say I'm a really bad tourist. Because if I saw pictures on the internet, I'm like, why should I go there? I saw it on the internet. I read the review, the stories. What is it? Where is the surprise? And I want to have the surprise. So I'm like, On the other hand, sometimes I can see one picture and I'm like, oh, this is something different.
Take me there now.
Take me there now. So it's not black and white. It's a mix of the two, you know.
I agree with you as well. I mean, I'm not. I would say I'm not that active on social media anymore. I tend to do or use social media for announcing the podcasts, and you know, once my travel agency's back up and running in full swing, it'll be adverts for that. But for my personal side of things, like Instagram and Facebook, all that, I very rarely post stuff for me now. I just got bored of wasting my time doing it.
Because it's so time consuming, you know.
It is.
And it's funny because when you are kind of a public figure, you have to be there from time to time. And I'm really bad at that, really. But sometimes I'm like, okay, if I don't put something, people are gonna say like, she's not doing anything anymore. And it's like, no, it's because I'm too busy doing stuff. Like I'm not there, you know. But it's not how it sees, you know. So it's something that is in our life, and we have to to deal with it or play with it, or you know, it's part of the game.
Leave the kids to it and get on with what we want to do. Hey, let's. I want to know all about your exploits during COVID.
During COVID,
Mm-hmm.
COVID was really an interesting moment. I am really lucky. I didn't suffer from it because of the way I deal with everything that is not predictable. So I always have backups of backups if something happened. I didn't see that coming, of course, but in being always exposed to something that may happen that you can't control, I believe I was more prepared.
Okay.
That being said, of course, I had tons of flight tickets that I just made confetti and with them. But that brings me to my dearest project, actually, that I started during COVID, which is called the Eye of Quebec. And the Eye of Quebec basically is one of the features on the planet that the astronaut like to photograph it's basically the fourth biggest impact crater on Earth that has been filled with water because of a big hydroelectric dam in Quebec.
Okay.
So you have a shape, there's an island in the middle, and you have the round shape and the river that give waters to the dam, and it covers a surface of 1,972 square kilometers.
Wow.
So it's really huge.
Yeah.
And on top of that, that's a delivery. So okay, I'm just gonna let my partner open the door and take the package.
That's okay. See if it's a delivery of champagne for Jazz, will you?
Yeah, no, it's not champagne. Damn it, I don't know what it is, but okay. So yeah, and that place, the crater, the Manicouagan Reservoir, so the Eye of Quebec, is really special, and you will understand that because in Canada, before the Europeans arrived, there were native people, and unfortunately, the way the situation or the occupation has been made is not the so happy story that every people is proud of. So we are at the stage that land that has been flooded was a native land, and for the First Nation people, the attachment, how they belong to the land, it's not at all the same than for us. You know, Europeans or Americans or many cultures, we build things. We occupy the territory, we build things. The Egyptians, they built pyramids. The Maya, they built some stuff. The European, they built castles, and so on and so on. But for the First Nation, you don't have a footprint on the land. You coexist with it. You hunt, you fish, you have your tent and all. And that land that has been flooded, their land where some people gave birth, and every winter they were going back there to hunt, etc., etc. But the thing is that because of the dam, the level of water rise for 140 meters. So it's completely flooded. That land is
140 meters?
Yeah.
Wow.
It's pretty high, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bloody hell.
So, and it was the boreal forest that hasn't been cut before the flood. So what I did, the first time I went to the reservoir with my partner and a friend, a boat captain, and I said, okay, I'm gonna go there because I can't find any pictures. There's no pictures of what it's like on the water. So it's about 1,200 kilometers away from home. So we drove there. We went in the woods, and then we start diving. But it's pitch black waters. It's like diving in American coffee waters. So it's dark.
Yeah.
It's pretty cold. It's like 5 degrees below the thermocline, and it's a huge forest. So the trees are still there. They are dead, of course, but they are still there, upright, sometimes crooked, sometimes on the way, but the forest is there. So it can be really I don't know how to say hairy. Yeah, eerie.
Hairy, eerie, weird, spooky.
Hairy, yeah, spooky. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it can be really a spooky environment, and you can get stuck in a tree and stuff like that, and you can't see further than 5 feet away. But at the same time, for me, it's like diving in space.
Yeah.
You're like in the universe, and you've got the particles that your light just make alive, and you don't know what's going to happen, what you're going to see. And it's amazing to see the resilience of that environment that is completely submerged. So we started the first expedition during pandemic, and we did 3, and we're going to go back to do the 4th one in September. And each time it's to go deeper and deeper and deeper to reach the ancient shore where the First Nation people, the Innu people, used to go and camp in family. So for me, it's the exploration of a world that disappeared from our view of sight, but that will never die, because we know that wood in fresh water will never die.
Yeah. So I noticed on your video you were taking samples from the wood as well, eh?
Yeah, we did take some samples. We cut some trees to take some slice of trees to do some dendrochronology with a university. We are working with 2 different universities. It's one of the things that I love as a scuba diver, is to do some citizen science, some people would say, of it can be archaeology, citizen science, and working with scientists at universities who have all the tools you can dream of, that are going to be able to understand and analyze what you see underwater. So we work with them, and what they're going to do with those analyses is to have a better history of what that forest went through during the years, during the past. And it's a good tool to study history, to better understand the future and to prepare the future. For many, it's not only for the forest, but for many, many aspects in life. If you go back to what happened in the past and you study that, you better understand how we may react the same way than in the past, redo the same thing or the same shit again, or act differently to have a different result.
Yeah.
So for me to work with scientists is really, really important, because it's it's a way you can contribute to knowledge that is way beyond yourself, to better understand, and then to better show why it's important to document those kind of environment.
Yeah.
And how the evolution, okay, you flood a forest, what is the effect on the fish? Can they adapt or no? What is the effect of erosion? Is there an effect on the land on top, on the deer and all the wildlife around, and of course on the people.
Have they come back with any interesting results from the samples that you took so far? I know it's an ongoing thing with you going back, but
yeah, I know they're gonna publish some stuff in June. So
okay.
Until June, we can't know anything. Oh. You know how they are. Eh? It's like yeah, it's going well. But most of the time, when we work with scientists, it takes anywhere between 1 year to 2 years before we have the result. And I completely understand them, because they're gonna publish the result. So if they don't go through the entire process, some people may use that information, but not with all the nuance, and so we don't have the result of those samplings now.
We'll just have to wait until June then, eh?
Exactly.
Okay, moving on. Another question for you. How do you balance the technical aspects of underwater photography with the artistic and creative aspects of your own mind?
How I balance the technical aspect and the creativity? I think, like all the craft, you need to know perfectly your camera, the controls. Everything needs to be a second nature. So the moment you're on the water, you can focus on the artistic side of it.
Yeah.
So
that makes sense.
there's a lot. Even when I buy a new camera, I'm still now with the same brand, so they're not completely different. But there's always little new things and button how they are placed. It's a bit different, but everything needs to be known by heart. You have to not have to think about it.
Yeah.
If you have to think about it, don't do a big dive with our equipment. It's not the right time. I mean, go in your bathtub, in your swimming pool, sit in your couch and just close your eyes, put your big gloves and do anything. Do everything you think you might need to do. So the moment you're filming or taking the pictures, you're doing the artistic part of it. And it's like when I teach underwater or even topside photography or videography, I'm more videography than photo. It's like when you look in your viewfinder, you never look in one point. Your eyes is always going to the four corners of the images. And your other eyes like, okay, what's next? And I learned that when I started in documentaries, because back then we had a roll of film, 400 feet, 120 meters, and it was 12 minutes.
Right.
And you had 12 minutes, and you were not going to see the result before you go back to your country, that goes to the lab, and then you go to the projection booth, and then you see the results, so a month and a half after. You couldn't see it, so you had to make sure and to be confident enough that the exposure was good, it was in focus, and blah blah blah. And while you were filming, and you had to push your eyes against the viewfinder, otherwise there was light going through the viewfinder and you were going to flare the film, so it was not good anymore. So you had to push your eyes, and the other one was open because you wanted to see, okay, what is going on outside of the frame, because I'm filming this, but maybe I should do this.
Yeah.
So and it's the same thing on the water. It's like, this is the shot I'm doing, but it's like playing chess. What is the next move?
Yeah.
And it's always like, okay, what is the next move? And still it's a bit different, because you're like, okay, this is your subject, and you really want that precise moment where you want to click. But now you can do like Rafale, like trrr. So you're good if you're not using a strobe. But when you're on video, it's like, okay, is it a static shot, or should I pan? Should I tilt?
Yeah.
And it's something that becomes organic with what you're doing.
Yeah.
So it's the balance is really, and on top of that, in order to be able to express the artistic of the image you want to do, is to make sure you know what you want to tell with those images. I remember years ago, I did a film in Alaska, a documentary, and the minute we arrived on the liveaboard, the captain told me, well, we were supposed to go north, but we're going to go south because we're going to have the storm of the decade. And I was like, oops, all the research I did, all my contacts was up there, not there.
Yeah.
So you take your script and you can do this. And I was like, what do you want me to do?
Yeah.
So I was screaming for a couple of seconds.
Get that out of the way.
No! Get out of the way. And it's like, okay, wait a minute. What do you want to say with that film? What is the meaning of that film? The true meaning. And then it's like, okay, each time we were going to a new location, this feel the purpose of the film. This, because when you know what you want to do, it's the same thing when you plan travel. You plan travel. If you don't plan anything, you're going to arrive somewhere, okay, it's nice. but maybe we're going to miss some stuff because you didn't do the research.
Yeah,
So,
what do we do now?
And it's a balance of, let's be open to what life can bring you, but be prepared to what you expect, what you would like to see or discover or experience or whatever. So it's really a mix of the two. So make sure you know the technical. Same thing for technical diving. Everything needs to be second nature's muscle memory, and then you can focus on what you want to do with that dive, with that filming. There's a lot of a similarity in those two highly technical domain.
You're literally echoing some of the comments that I got when I was talking recently with Nicholas Remy, who's an award-winning photographer, and he's just starting his own online business, coaching people. And he says exactly what you've just said about the practicing with the camera above the water's surface, as you mentioned. Get your camera out, put your gloves on, put a blindfold on, do it on the sofa, whatever. And he said he learned more, or he does learn more, by doing those practice moments than what he does any time in the water. Purely because he's wanting that second nature, auto response time. You see something, a slight change, whatever, as you mentioned, one eye's here, the other eye's there. I get this. And the body just does. And it's got to be that practice that puts it into place, eh?
Yeah, and it's the same thing that any high-level sports. When you think of the skiers, they close their eyes and they see. Same thing cycling, they know, and they relieve it. When I do auto-hypnosis, it's what I do. I envision, I see my dive, I live my dive, I rehearse my dive, what I want to do with that. And because when you do that, you're like, okay, so this might go like this go, no, that doesn't feel right. And by rehearsing, it's the same thing with the configuration of your equipment. Sometimes you just put it on you. It's like, okay, because it should be there. Yeah, but maybe for me it should be there. It's where is it the most comfortable? It's like the clip. The clip. Each time at the same place, and rehearse it hundreds of times. Camera, same thing, and you can do it physically with a camera, and just before you go to sleep or before you wake up, you go out of bed. I close my eyes. I've got my position, and I relieve the moment, relieve what I need to do. It's like, okay, because while you are doing it, you can see the stuff that are not going to work the way you want coming. Yeah. And then you're like, oh, okay. And then you're going to have the correction. How are you going to do it? And the more you do it, at some point it can be crazy, because you just I'm working on some stuff right now, and sometimes it's like a commercial, that goes over and again and again and again and again, and until I don't have the solution, it just goes. It goes. It's like, okay, replay, and then bang.
Eureka.
Yeah. Safe.
Hey, we're doing a lot of talking about videography and photography. What about the equipment that you use when you're underwater? How do you choose what products work for you, and do they differ across the different projects that you do?
As a scuba diving equipment?
Well, camera equipment.
Camera equipment? Yeah, camera equipment. Oh yeah, they differ a lot, depending. For example, if it's a feature film, if it's a commercial, most of the time we are in a swimming pool. So, and in Canada, it's like in Australia, you have to be a first level of commercial diver in order to film underwater. So you have big sets, lots of people. When it's a commercial, you've got the clients, you've got the agency, you've got the production company, you've got the director. You are the DP, the director of photography, or you have a topside director of photography, and you're doing the underwater work. And then you have the talents in front of you. You've got the electrics, the team for machinists, for all the big parts, the safety divers, the medics. So it's huge team. Most of the time we are like 70%.
Really?
It's huge. On a feature film, a crew, because we've got the costumes, the makeups, hairdresser, so many people. And what is funny is that so you've got big cameras, of course. You don't do the focus yourself. It's the assistant who is most of the time at the surface. So as a filmmaker, as an underwater camera person, you're kind of by yourself underwater. You're with your assistant with bidirectional communication, and everybody on top, blah, 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 blah about what you're doing. And then you try to have the most fluid communication with them to make sure that we have the proper shot. And what is funny in feature films is that most of the time when you're doing the prep, so you have the scouting of the location and you explain how it works and blah, blah, blah. Most of the time it's the first time they're going to do that kind of shots. And they say, okay, so we're going to start the day with the underwater shots. But it never happened that way. You're always the last shot of the day. Yeah. And because of the regulation and the way we work, we have like a 12 hours day. And if they go over those 12 hours day, big bucks. So it always ends the same way. You've got 1 hour or even less to do the most complicated shot of the day. But because they postpone everything, it's like, okay, you're gonna be next, but you're never next. It's always last. And then it's like everything is squeezed, and then they realize how complex it is, but you have to honestly do miracles so it works perfectly and everybody is happy.
Do you do you feel the pressure to get it done in that time constraint, or do you sit back and think, 20 minutes more from now and I'm on double pay?
Oh, no, I don't think that way. No. I mean, as long as it's safe for the talents, and most of the time the problem is hypothermia with the talents, when we're doing kind of shoots. Yeah. We don't think about that, but and most of them, they are not used to spend hours and hours and hours in the underwater. And it's more complex, and there are actors, actresses, but they are not used to do that kind of shots, and they want to push it. So you train them to make them as comfortable and efficient as possible, and make sure that everything is all good with them. They are safe, they are comfortable, and they're not going to go into hypothermia an hour after the end of the shoot. But for me, it's really to make sure that we're going to have the shot, and even a better shot than what they thought they were going to have. I always happy when I can surprise them. It's like, whoo, and when I hear them applause, yes, we did it. And I'm really happy with that.
Pop the champagne.
Not all the time, but nearly.
Oh, brilliant. Okay. Women Divers Hall of Fame. Let's talk about these fabulous ladies. What's your involvement, and what does it mean to you, and when did you enter into the Women Divers Hall of Fame? All of the above.
I believe it was in 2019. It's quite recently. I believe it was 2019, and it's really amazing because let's face it, even if we are in 2023, even if the place of women is more in balance in society, we're not quite there yet.
Yeah.
There's still a long, long way to go. And to see that in the 50s, there were women doing amazing stuff underwater right from the beginning, and that the first generation of women worked together to put that organization to acknowledge the achievement of women. It's really, really it feels really good to have been accepted by them. Because,
well, it's fair to say that you've done quite a lot of achieving.
Yeah, and it's like, okay, so it's like people recognize the value of what you put your art in, and your heart. So yeah, that means a lot, and I think it's inspire other women and younger women, and I think that's a huge goal of the organization, is to show other young women that it can be possible, no matter if you're big, if you're small, if you're white, black, yellow, red, whatever. We don't care. It's achievable, and you're gonna have some help from the other ones.
From some awe-inspiring women, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when you look at the biography of all of those women, some of them are not well known, but when you look at the biography, you're like, really? They did that back then? How dare? No, it's funny. It's wow,
Yeah. Brilliant. What's your? You say you're going back to the lake, or back to the Eye in September. Is that your next major project? So have you got any others on the go?
I'm gonna go back in the Arctic. I'm going back in the Arctic nearly every year for all kind of projects. Sometimes it's for filming, sometimes it's to take divers to dive under the flowage. So this time I believe I'm gonna have 7 divers to go with me, and I may do more stuff up there. And we camp on the flowage. So this is something I really enjoy. We're gonna do a liveaboard in south of Red Sea, in a place where they're just starting to see what it's like. So it's kind of a exploratory liveaboard, which is going to be really, really nice. And I've got another project in Quebec, also in lakes, related with the logging of wood we did in the past, and the impact of that. So it's 2 different wood situation, but it's the impact of those 2, yeah. And I'm working on different projects, more artistic, for virtual reality with other artists, because I'm mixed with my own project that I produce, and find the fundings, blah blah blah, and working with others for their project, where basically what I'm doing is either writing or editing or filming, diving. So there's a mix of those 2 in my life. So basically, like a year in my life can be working for my projects, the projects of others, doing lectures, either for a corporation, like motivational, how to face fear, how to work together, equity, minority, that kind of stuff. I use a lot of neurological programmation, PNL,
neuro-linguistics.
Yeah. So I work with that also, because for me everything is connected.
Yeah.
So it's really a mix of nowadays what I add as a project, which has nothing to do with diving, is a long hike. So we're going to do a 200, nearly 300 kilometers hike in June. And it's something I really enjoy, because I just have, my house is my backpack.
Yeah.
And I have to be able to carry it. But once again, that fulfill some needs I have to be able to do some deeper exploration. You know, because you push your limits, you push yourself, how your body is going to react, how your mind is going to react, how are you going to be able to push even if it hurts.
Yeah.
So everything you're doing, you know, it's a different level of training. Because if you want to do some push dive, if you want to go further, whether it's deep or cold or hard currents or tight place, it's not going to be comfortable. So for me to do different activities that takes me out of my comfort zone, physically or mentally, it's so important.
Yeah.
Because once again, it's how you can improve.
Yeah. Where are you doing the hike?
It's going to be around Lake Tahoe, near the border of California.
Okay.
And funny enough, you're going to laugh maybe, it's the worst year of snowfall. They had 12 meters so far.
Bloody hell.
12, yes. So we're not quite sure how it's going to go, because it was to be even if it's in June, it's supposed to be a summer hike.
Yeah.
But now it's might be a snowshoe hike.
Yeah.
So it's changing the game, but it's going to be really interesting.
That's
going
to be very interesting, and it'll certainly push your boundaries.
Oh yes. And you know, we're going to see how we're going to be able to adapt.
Yeah. I'll think about you slightly while I turn the aircon on at home.
Yes. I send you a picture to keep you cool.
Oh dear. Hey, what I should have asked, you know, when we were talking about Women Divers Hall of Fame, have you yourself faced many challenges as a woman in the male-dominated field? I mean, you've got, you know, as a camera woman or camera person, camera person nowadays, as a camera woman, you must have entered into that industry heavily outweighed by male. And then you're into the dive industry and you're doing all of this exploration and deep and fascinating documentaries. Again, it must be heavily weighted on the male side. So have you personally had an uphill battle to overcome that indifference?
How to answer that? And you're kind enough not to mention my size.
Well, yeah. Well, I didn't want to say that you could probably sleep in your backpack. But
yeah, I could sleep in my backpack. So, yeah, and you know, it's funny because it's always the same thing. When people see me, it's like, she can't do it. Even nowadays, when people don't know me, it's like they doubt it. And then within a couple of minutes or hours, it's like, okay, it's done. You know, we're just human, we're just person, and I'm gonna do the job. But I had really bad situation where it wasn't fun at all. And you know, when people tell you stuff they shouldn't, but you can't control the others.
yeah,
So if they are not comfortable with the fact that you are a woman, for me it's their problem.
mm-hmm.
You know, in a sense that I'm not stealing your job. I'm doing your job, and there's room for everyone. I'm gonna do it maybe differently,
And possibly
maybe
better.
sometimes better, maybe sometimes not better, but it's going to be different, and I'm going to do it, and there's room for everybody. There was some situation in which, for documentary purposes, I remember we did. It was for UNESCO back then, a documentary about the condition of women in the world, and at that time I was a camera assistant. It was in film, and the camera person was a guy, and he's a friend, and but there was some sequence, some little girls he couldn't film because those little girls were victim of prostitution.
Okay.
So that no way he could have filmed them, so I filmed them. So in some situation it's a plus, it's an advantage. In some situation you just have to overcome what other people might think, but at the end of the day, except a couple of situations where it was not fun for a couple of minutes, I made my way anyway.
Yeah.
You know, I think because I always said, you know what, if you want to open the door for me, thank you, but I don't need it. But if you're doing it, I will appreciate it, but I don't need it, and I don't ask you to do it. And if I'm here, it's because I'm going to do everything. So I always carried my own equipment. I remember when I dove at the beginning with big twins, way too big for me, but it was the way it was. You know, even my first wing for my twin, I remember Lamar Ayers told me the first time I did my training in cave, he told me, you look like a remanta, because the wings was just too big. And I'm like, I'm just too small. But I'm doing it. You know, maybe it's not the most nicest piece of equipment on me, but I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
You know, and at the end of the day, I will go from A to B and B to A, and that's it. And I may breathe much more than the others to do some stuff and work harder, but it's for me. It's I'm just one of the boys, one of the girls. I don't make a difference.
Good.
And at the same time, however, I really enjoy to put together a team of women to do stuff, because I feel that we still need to do it just to show that it's possible. It's not better. It's different. It's not better, but it's possible. You know, it's just everybody can be autonomous. And you know, there are some guys that are bullying by women or other guys. You know, it's not something just women, and some minorities have issue or problems. And for me, it's just, you know what? We're just one of the other, and we're all different. That big woman, that small, tiny guy. But if you want to do something, you will find your way of doing it with your weakness and your strengths. And the rest, well, you know, if I've got a bad comment, it's like, okay, it's a bad comment. I dare you.
Ciao. What kind of? You got the hypnosis and the mind, you know, focusing on the mind. Do you have any kind of additional strategies that you may adopt to motivate and keep your creativity inspired?
Well, for the creativity, I think being curious about all kind of arts. It can be painting, it can be dancing, it can be even sometimes graffiti. You know, all kind of creativity by others. One of the things that I love is to listen to TED Talks.
Yes.
I had a chance to do a TEDx here in Quebec, And I was really happy to do that, because I remember when they first started with TED Talks, I was like, wow, this is amazing. And back then, every single day I was listening to one TED Talks per day, and I wasn't choosing the topics.
Just
Once
go through
again,
them.
it's like, okay, just I go through them. Sometimes I was like, oh, okay, well, doesn't really touch me, but it's like there's always something different to learn, something different to think about, a different way, a different reality. Even sometimes, with the globalization, it's funny because we have access, for example, to comics, but from so many different countries. And I love that, because their reality is so different from mine. But when I listen to them, it's like, I never thought of that way. That's interesting. And all those point of views, for me, it's the richness and how you can just change and evaluate in your art and how you're going to do things.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, the inspiration can be, and from so many different things. Sometimes it's just to see someone that is not well equipped in life and struggling but succeeding.
Yeah.
And you learn from those people.
You do.
You
They
learn
stick in
from
mind,
them.
don't they? They stay in your mind. So, like you said
Yeah.
about the photo
Yeah.
earlier on. Photos do
Yeah,
capture.
and
the
you're
mind
like,
and stay there.
they don't complain, they don't settle down, they keep fighting, they keep doing it, and I have a lot of admiration and respect to all the person who didn't have the tools to start with in life and achieve some stuff that may not be there for most of the people, but for them it's like, how did you do that?
Yeah.
You just keep doing.
Mm.
So this is something else, and it can go from that to how the First Nation people in Canada, how they always laugh. They laugh all the time. They always joke, and it's funny because they suffered a lot, but it's funny how they are. And sometimes it just bring you back to the level of ground, the level of earth. It's like, okay, whatever you're doing, keep your 2 feet on the ground and just enjoy. Even if you have a bad day, a bad dive, you try to achieve something and you didn't succeed, you kind of failed that day. It's like, you know what, you will have a second chance. You're still there to do it.
Is it fair to say that these experiences, the TED Talks you listen to, the Indigenous people that you come across and laugh with, is it those kind of experiences and people that inspire you to pass on inspiration into others to take notice of the environment and ultimately try and look after it better?
Oh yeah. I think they are a big part of it, and regarding the environment, I always said to the people, because we often hear, do that for future generation.
Yeah.
And I must admit, I don't understand that sentence, and I don't say it, and I even tell the people, I don't do it for future generations. And it's simple, because I don't know them. And since when do you do something for someone you don't even know exists? It's like having an objective that is completely out of nowhere. And if you want to achieve something, you need to be able to quantify your objective, to give you a deadline and give you the tools to do it. If you don't have a deadline, if you don't have a quantity or how you're going to do it, you're not going to do it. So for me to say that, I understand, and I understand the sentence, but for me it doesn't make sense. And I tell to the people, the reason why I want to take care of the environment is because I know I'm going to get old one day, hopefully, and I want to be in the best possible health and state of mind I can. And the only thing I can control to have that is to take care of my environment, what I eat, what I breathe, what I have around me, how I'm going to take care of my mental health as well. And this is really important. And if I take care of my environment, if I do cleanups, if I avoid to use chemicals, if I do that and I have a cleaner environment, maybe my neighbor is going to say like, oh, that's true, right? It's nicer. It's nice to have a garden. It's nice that the beach is clean, that the ocean is clean, that the fish is a good state of health. Maybe I should do it, huh? Because I can see the result. I can see why it's important. And for me, this is when you, talk the walk and walk the talk. When you show by
Example.
doing.
Yep.
Example, exactly, by example. Each time we're doing cleanups, it's funny because people walk and, oh, what are you doing? Oh, you're diving there. It's disgusting. It's brown. It's muddy. Blah blah blah. You're not afraid. You're not scared. You're gonna get sick. No. And then you tell them, do you know your drinking water comes from there? Oh, really? I'm gonna show you what we found there. And I'm going to show you why it's there. So next time you smoke a cigarette, good for you, but the butt, don't put it in the water. Don't put it on the ground. Put it in the garbage. You drink a coffee, don't let the wind take the empty cup.
Yeah.
Walk after it. And we're doing cleanups with 250 kids from a school in Montreal each year. And it's amazing because they are the next generation that I can see, I can rely, and we can have a conversation. And I can tell them, don't judge the other generation because you're going to be judged as well.
Yeah.
And their stuff they did that was the best they knew back then, but it's not by putting people against each other that we're going to achieve something. For me, it's really important to say, it's the same in the diving industry. We are all in this together. And we want to do it to have better dives, better experience, to share something that is amazing. Because we're just sharing that planet. And while diving, we are amazing witness of the richness of the oceans or the rivers, whatever underwater it is. And when we dive, we can have a small net, and if we find some garbage, put it in your pocket, in your net, and then you put it in the garbage and remove it from the oceans. And each time you're doing that, yes, take a pictures, yes, share that pictures, yes, tell to the others, because the others are gonna say, oh, that's true, huh? I couldn't do the same. Yeah, and it does not cost you anything. Taking care of the planet of yourself does not cost you much more. So why we won't do it more? It's and it's fun. I mean, it's funny to see when I organize the cleanups. The divers send me emails or texts and say, when is the next one? Because it's something that is make a bond. It's forming a community. And people are proud to do something. It's like, hey, I'm a diver, and I clean the river. I do something, and I was there. And so, most of the time, I tell the people, when you do that, you will be able to say, when we were saving the world, I was there. I did my part, even if it's a tiny part. You did it. Why?
That's it. But if a million people do all of those tiny parts, it's colossal. It's huge.
Yeah. And why we want to do it? Because the ocean is unbelievable. The underwater environment, it's amazing. And no matter why you dive, you may dive because it's beautiful. You may dive because you want to be top tech diver with the perfect configuration. You may want to dive because you're disabled and you don't feel the weight of your body while you're underwater. I mean, once you're underwater, something is happening to your body and your mind and your brain.
Mm.
People are just relaxed, like, oh, I can't wait to my next dive.
Yeah. It's my place of serenity. If I'm in the water,
Yeah,
it can be the shittest dive in the world, but I'm just so happy to be in the water.
yeah.
Yeah.
Just to be there and breathe. Yeah.
Hey, did you know, we're talking about environment and saving it, et cetera, et cetera. You see that the High Seas Treaty announcements in the last couple of days?
Saturday? Yeah, a couple of days ago, yeah.
Yeah, that's marvellous news.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't expect to see that coming out.
I mean, I think we can be really optimistic. Seriously, I mean, there is a lot of things we can complain, but at some point, if you spend most of the time complaining, you put too much importance on that. And I think nowadays there are so many communities everywhere in the world doing something for the planet, for the environment, for the others. And I'm not quite sure that we had that many in the past.
Yeah.
And by being able to share all that, it just inspire others to say like, oh, I could do the same in my community.
Yeah.
So I think there's a lot of, I don't feel, I mean, sometimes you can be like, but most of the time I'm pretty optimistic that so many people are trying to do something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a good thing. It's a feel-good factor thing as well, that's for sure.
Oh yeah, feel good, yeah. Feel good underwater and doing something for the environment. It's win-win.
Yeah. Win-win.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm gonna fire the 10 questions at you that each guest of every show going through season 4 of the podcast are answering. So we'll see how that goes. Are you ready for number 1? How do you describe your job as a diver and underwater videographer to people who are not familiar with the activity?
My job is to go to places that are not well known, take a camera, film those places, document what is going on there, and share it with the others through film, lectures, articles. Basically, it's what I'm doing in life.
And always smiling while you're doing it.
Yes.
Maybe always. With the odd. Brilliant. Question number 2. Can you share a memorable diving experience that stands out to you as the best you've had?
Oh my God, that question is so hard, and I'm going to be really bad because, sometimes people ask you, what is your best dive?
Uh-huh.
And it's the one I didn't do yet.
Yeah. I like that.
For me, it's that one because I don't know what it's going to be like.
Yeah.
So, but not to be a boring person and gave you the feeling that I didn't answer the question. I'm going to, still I'm going to try to give you an answer, but it's really hard because there are many of them. But there are some of the dives that may be more meaningful because sometimes when you want to do something but you can't access it right away and it takes you years for so many reasons, and finally you're there, two things might happen. Either you're gonna be deceived,
okay, yeah,
and you're gonna say, oh, I thought it would have been better,
yeah.
Or it is why finally you're doing it, you're there, and it's just like fireworks.
Yeah.
It's just amazing because finally, it took you so long to be there. And there's a place for me that is really meaningful for me. It's Silfra in Iceland.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and for many reasons. First of all, the best water in the world is in Iceland for me.
Is that because of the clarity?
The clarity, and you can drink it. It's like it for me. The water smells flowers. It's I don't know. It's that the water is so good. The clarity, and because it's the crack in between the continent and the geology of it. And I love Iceland. There's other places I really love, but Iceland, I love it because the beauty of the landscape, the harsh environment and purity environment, it's amazing. So that place was one of my best one, and I was lucky enough to be able to access that place before all the tourists doing some snorkel, so that was good.
Okay.
So we woke up and we had an authorization to go before. Yeah, otherwise I would have not be the same answer.
Yeah.
Because when I dive somewhere and there's 50 other divers,
not interested. Yeah.
No. Sorry, it's not for me.
We're just planning out my 50th next year, and
nice.
Yeah, and I used to work in Thailand in the Similan Islands running a liveaboard boat, and it's a very popular location. So much so there's lots of boats, so there's lots of divers. It can be a right royal pain in the arse on the dive sites. However, we've decided to go ahead and just charter a full boat, and it just happens to be the company I used to work for. But because we've purposely chartered the boat so that we can offset away from all of the other liveaboard boats, and I'm super excited to see what the dive sites are going to be like without other divers on it. You know, I had little snippets in my time while I was working there where we'd offset it a little bit, and that you'd just see a couple of divers every now and then. But I think to be able to control the boat and disappear off away from all the others is going to be an absolute amazing time in a beautiful location, hopefully.
And you don't experience the environment the same way. You know, sometimes you could be. I remember when we went to the Galapagos, we were at Darwin, and okay, I'm sorry, and people are gonna be maybe ashamed of me, but I'm like, yes, I'm really happy that I did it, that I had the opportunity to dive it, but sometimes being by myself in a small lake in front of a tiny fish and having that connection is more meaningful.
Yeah.
Being in front of rocks or a wrecks that nobody dived before, and you don't know what to expect, and it's different for me.
Yeah. No, I understand that. I understand.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think some of my most memorable dives of all time have been in Papua New Guinea and diving reefs that I know no one else has ever laid eyes on, let alone dived. That for me just sticks in my mind, and it's ingrained there forever. So I completely understand where you're coming from. And the Galapagos, it's fantastic. We're going again in July. But as you say, if you've got 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 divers around you, you don't have that unique moment of solitude, really, do you?
Yeah, I think the while diving, it's for me being in an environment where you're a guest.
Yeah.
And you have the opportunity to see that environment that is not controlled by human. Well, it is, but not. It's like going.
Not freely.
It's like going in the woods or in the mountains. I mean, the environment's gonna win. You're not gonna win. You're not in a city. You're you're not going to win. If the weather is going to hit, try to understand it, because you're going to lose. And this is, for me, the real connection with nature, either in the water, and that's why I love those dives where I know that I have to trust the nature, trust the environment, understand the environment, to be able to live with it and to fit in it. And the moment it's happening, it's magic. It's something you can't forget. It's something way bigger than you, and I think this is, for me, the true beauty of it. So of course, if you have in your frame, in your eyesight, 10 other divers, it's fun to share with others, but sometimes it's also interference, because they are in the frame, and what you want is just to see the sharks or the fish or the turtles of the tiny creatures, that are so different to you, and at the same time we're all connected.
Yeah.
Like I remember we did the Northwest Passage, the Canadian Arctic, and of course at the beginning, what do you want to see? Like the big animals, but most of the time, except in some places, you won't see them. So you're like, well, there's nothing to see here. And then you try to look within the column of water, and then you see the small creatures, the jellyfish and all the others, unicellular creatures, and then you're like, this is magic.
Yeah.
We are in a different universe, and for me, this is another amazing dive that I will never forget.
Yeah. The passion comes through strong, young lady, that's for sure.
Short answer.
I'll give you the next one. Let you have a drink of water first.
Go ahead.
Okay. If someone wanted to pursue a career similar to yours, what advice would you give them? Other than don't. I would say, if someone would have a career similar to mine, would be follow your heart. I mean, we will remember only one life, whether we have one or I don't know, but we have just one. If you're gonna be doing something that will occupy 2/3 of your life, you better be happy with it. So if you want to do something, be ready to do a lot of sacrifice, a lot of sacrifices. It's unbelievable. Don't count the hours. There's no Sundays. Yeah.
But it's the most unique and rewarding way to satisfy your curiosity. So I think the people who are doing that kind of lifestyle, because it's a lifestyle, it's not a career, it's a lifestyle. You know, I've got some friends and they are, okay, I'm going to retire in 2 years and all. And I'm like, you know what? I don't even think about it, because when I'm going to be retired, I'm going to do exactly the same thing, but maybe less intense. But it's going to be the same thing. I don't know what else I'm going to do, maybe a little bit less, because I'd be, slower, blah, blah, blah. But I do the same. So, and for me, it's a good thing, because it's a good choice, and I'm still passionate about what I'm doing, even when I'm having bad days because it's not working. I don't have the grants, or I don't have this or that, or I don't have the best tools to do it because I can't afford them, but I still, at the end of the year, have a great year.
Yeah. It's that drive and determination, and that just do it kind of mentality that makes it all good, really, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. But if someone want to be rich, maybe it's not the best option. There's plenty of other jobs. No, but you know, you have to know. You have to know what you really want from life. You know, if it's to have comfort, if it's to have a lot of money, if it's to be about being famous, these are not the good reason.
No.
Because if you think it's going to be easy and all the doors are going to open, you get all the fundings and the partnerships and blah, blah, blah. No. It's not an Instagram account or TikTok account where the picture is done. It takes a lot of work and effort to make the pictures, but it's not. What is interesting is not the end result, it's the path.
Yeah. And that's it. I mean, if the path is stressful as hell and you're torturing yourself trying to achieve these goals that are effectively unachievable for most, what kind of life is that? Exactly.
It's not yeah.
Okay, number 4. If you could change anything about the diving industry or scuba diving in general, what would it be?
I think I would put less emphasis on the tools and more about the environment. Yeah. I mean, it's nice, and I love, I mean, don't misunderstand me. I love tools and toys, you know, it's like, because those two words and what we're doing, they are basically the same thing, you know.
Yeah.
You're buying a new tool, but it's like a toy, and you're happy with it. But sometimes I feel that it's too much about having this or that or the new thing or the new that. Yeah, but how many dives did you do? You know, so sometimes I'm not always that comfortable about pushing people to buy stuff or buy certifications. Like, try to take the most of what you have to enjoy it the most. If you're open water, you can do amazing dives in many, many places in the world.
Yeah.
You want to do your advanced, but it's not like, okay, you have to buy like 5-10 specialties or blah 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 and within the 2 years, and yeah, but what else did you do? Just training? Yeah, maybe so. Yeah, it may be something that I will change the narration of the industry about that sometimes.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's a business, so.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's a business, isn't it? The agencies are trying to make their monies, and for the instructors that are out there as well. But I do agree. I mean, there's been times in the past where I've actually said to people, you know, when they've asked, "Oh, I want to do my advanced, I want to do my rescue course, and then I'm going to go on and do dive master." I'm like, so are you going to be working in the dive industry? No, just want to do it. Well, why do you want to do it then? Why don't you use that money and go and do 30, 40, 50 fun dives and get the experience under the belt?
Yep.
Okay, let's rattle through these. I reckon it must be closing on some dinner time for you over there. What are your thoughts on ways to minimize human impact on the oceans?
My thought on minimizing human impact?
Yes. On the oceans. It's a very heavy and big question. Yeah. But in summary.
Good luck with that in summary. Matt is like, gee, she talks too much. I'm gonna call Christina. Okay. Okay, first of all, it's not us against nature. We are part of nature, first of all. But to minimize the impact on the oceans, it's like, I try to make sure that what I buy is what I need. If I don't need it, I don't see why I will buy it. And if I can borrow it, I will borrow it. Sometimes it's not possible. And to minimize the impact on the ocean is just try to live in a better balance with the environment in a generally. That means you may have a big car, but you just use it when you need it, and you calculate the best way you can do your traveling to make the minimum mileage. It's another way, you know, because most of the time we have people that have big ideas of this group against that group. It doesn't work that way. So for me, it's really, when you do something, is it gonna harm your environment? Is it the best natural product that you can buy, and you have the means to buy? If you have you can afford. This is the word I was looking for. Is it a product you can afford? If there's some product that are really harmful for the environment, do you really need to use them? You know, I'm just gonna give you an example, but to clean my house, I just use vinegar. I don't have to buy tons of products for every single thing. Vinegar, that's it, and it does the trick for 99% of the stuff. So, so I think for the ocean is the same thing. We could say, you know, every time you travel, you can buy carbon footprint exchange stuff. Like, for example, when we travel, we compensate with planting trees, stuff like that, which is good. So what can you do to have a balance in what you're doing? Yeah,
I think that bit there, the carbon footprint offset, I think I need to delve a little bit deeper into that one at some point, because I can't help thinking my spidey senses are up there. It's a bit open for corruption, and it doesn't necessarily say what's on the tin is actually occurring.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh. Okay, so speaking about conservation, is there a particular conservation effort that you are passionate about? And if so, which one and why?
Well, for me, the cleanups is really important. Because it's to put back nature, the underwater environment, in their natural state. So for me, it's really, really important to keep on doing those cleanups, and I will just do them most of the time locally, because it's where I live, it's where I have an impact with my co-citizen. So yeah, cleanups is really, really important. And because everything that goes from the rivers, from the source, eventually will go to the oceans.
Yeah.
So doing some conservation effort where you live, where I live, is the most important. So for me, it goes from cleanups, having my own garden, growing vegetables, having my apples to do my jam, all that stuff. Even if I'm busy traveling a lot, I always have a garden, and as long as I can manage it, I will have one, because it brings you back to nature on a daily basis. Because when you see a vegetables grow or fruits, you have the value of it. You taste it. When you have a kid coming to your house and have that raspberry or whatever and taste it, and just to see the kids taking it from the tree and eating it, it's just marvelous.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing with cleanups. You know, the kids come and they helps. It's like, okay, we're all in this together once again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well said. Well said. Keep it local. Okay. Of the many safety procedures we have in the industry, if you had to choose one as the most important, what would it be?
Going through. Well, I think it's the what if, and anyone can call the dive at any time from any reason. I think that one is my favorite.
Yeah.
And in the dive we used it many times, and for good reasons. Sometimes maybe not that good, but I don't care. I don't care.
Yeah.
I prefer scrapping a dive than scrapping the memory of someone that is not there anymore.
Yeah. I've only recently had to experience that myself as well, having to thumb a dive before even doing a dive, just because the headspace wasn't right, and it's invaluable. Absolutely invaluable.
Yeah.
All right, here's another really difficult question for you. What are your top 5 bucket list destinations?
That I didn't do, or that I did.
Well, you might have done them or wish to do them, but if you had to write a bucket list and give your top 5 destinations as the best.
I will say Antarctica because I haven't done it yet, and I would like to compare to Arctic. Second will be diving an iceberg. On the flow edge. I love it because you cannot put a mark in your GPS because in a couple of days it will not be there anymore. So you can't mark the dive site. And I love that fact that it's so ephemeral. What else?
So would you put the Arctic
Caves.
on there as well?
Oh yeah, Arctic is on my bucket list, and even if it's cold and sometimes harsh and all, it's so. I love it. I love it just because it will not be the same iceberg. It's an iceberg, but it's not the same iceberg. And you don't know. Maybe you're going to be able to dive it. And I remember one day within the course of the night, we lost more than 3 kilometers of flow edge of ice. Boom, because of the winds. So the day before we were like, oh, tomorrow we're going to dive there. No, it's gone. It's gone. What do you want me to dive? There's no iceberg anymore. So this is why I love it. It's amazing. Then there's a shipwreck in the St. Lawrence River called the City of Quebec. That is really nice. Another one is the Gunilda in the Great Lakes. It was a private yacht that is in 260 feet of water, which is pristine, really nice. Orcas. I filmed the orcas but not dive with them, and it's on my list for next year. This is something I really want to do as well. Cave diving, and there's not a specific caves, they are all different. I dove in Cocolbidi with Richard Harris and Craig Challen, and it was really nice. We slept there and it was amazing. It was a really nice dive. Did I say 5? Yeah.
Oh, there's definitely 5 there.
Yeah. So and there are, and and the places I don't know what to expect.
Yeah.
What to see. If nobody dived there.
Just going back to the Arctic there. Did you see much wildlife while you were up there?
Yeah. Well, when you are on the flow edge, not diving but on the ice. Basically, I think I checked all the box of what you can see there from, polar bears, belugas, narwhals, walrus, fox, muskox. We saw them all. Narwhal on the water was kind of not working. Belugas far away. But they are there. But the most time you're going to spend there. And usually the best time is near the end of June. It's just perfect. Yeah, because the ice is breaking, the leads are opening, so all the wildlife is coming. Yeah.
Yeah, happy days. It almost makes me want to put a dry suit on and get in some cold water. Ooh.
You should come. That's
I
amazing.
know. Yeah. I'll see if I can get the missus to sign off on the expense first. Okay, so final question on this one. How would you describe the dive community to a non-diver?
Oh, there's different way to describe the dive community. It's a bunch of people who spend thousands of bucks on equipment, compare each other equipment, and have lots of fun diving places.
Yeah.
No.
That about sums it up, really, doesn't it?
Yeah, it could be one of the descriptions. Honestly, I don't think there's one community of divers.
Yeah.
You know, because there's the big community, but there are many communities of divers. You know, there's the ocean divers, the wreck divers, the tech divers, the cave divers, the open water divers, the liveaboard divers, warm water only divers. But if you look at the community of divers that you met during festivals or shows like OzTek or Salon Paris or Beneath the Sea, whatever, those are people that before their own job define themselves being a diver. Because I think the value of the time spent on the water is the most important compared to the rest of their life. I think someone who define him or herself as a diver is that person that truly need to dive to be happy.
Yeah.
Remove diving, it's not the same person.
Yeah.
I think it's an addiction.
It is massively.
It is an addiction.
Yeah.
So we are addicted people to going on the water for so many different reasons. But it's an addiction that makes us happy and participate in the good balance of our lives. Definitively. No matter the kind of divers you are. Yeah.
Yeah. Beauty. Last question for you. I'll consider letting you go after that. I'd love to know or get a little insight into any future goals that you've got, and anything to do with your videography, your photography, your exploration. What's on the horizon and the long range plans for Nat? On the horizon, I really want to reach the original shore of the Innu land, of the First Nation people land. I want to see it, and I want to bring back images for the community, because it's been 60 years since it has been flooded, and it's exactly like if your father wanted to show his grandkids where he was born and his home, but you can't, because it's there but it's not there anymore. You can't access it. So for me, honestly, the way I see my filming and the photography and my diving, it's really a means of transportation, of accessing places that are meaningful to some people, and in this situation is to the First Nation people. So for me, it's really important to achieve that goal. It's going to be cold. It's going to be tough. Yep.
We hope we're going to have the good weather, because the weather is unpredictable. But I hope we're going to be able to reach that shore and do that dive. Yeah, this is but I finger crossed.
Yeah, we'll keep everything crossed for you from this end of the world as well. I'm sure you'll have every success.
Thank you.
Nathalie, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you, and thank you so much for coming on the show. You're a true inspiration to many, many people, and I look forward to many more of your adventures, and maybe a glass of bubbles at some point in the not too distant future.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Matt. A lot of pleasure talking to you. Thanks for doing the podcast, sharing the experience and the stories of so many divers is inspiring others, and this is a huge contribution to the community. This is so important to do that. So thanks for taking the time to doing it.
Lovely stuff. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Very humbling. Ladies and gents, I'm sure you'll enjoy this episode, and look forward to hearing about Nathalie's adventures. If you want to follow everything that she's doing, then I'll put all the details in the show notes.
Is Scuba GOAT Under the Sea, the podcast for the inquisitive diver.